Hello and welcome back to Stu Structures. We're here for another research video in my research series, and this one is on standard track plans, so stay tuned. Okay, hello and welcome back. I am Mark Stewart. This is Stu Structures, and we're here today to talk about another research subject. You know, a lot of these things I have behind me on these shelves are research material that I collected over the years. And there's one book that I got out in 1977, was put out by the Akron Railroad Club. And you know, it's copyrighted. I didn't know who to get a hold of to get permission, so through the B&O Historical Society, I did find some plans and things that they have in their collection as well. I didn't find the book, but you know, it may be there. I just didn't come across it. But in any case, I have several pages of plans that went into that book and copies, and I just want to kind of show you this kind of stuff. The railroads a lot of time had a book of standard plans, and if you were going to build something small along your railroad, even a station or a freight station or anything, there would have been a set of standard plans in this book to do what you want to do, whether it was making crossings or, you know, signs along the railroad, telephone booths, whatever. Everything is kind of covered in this book. So we're going to go through some of those pages here and give you an idea of what was in that book. And you know, the pages that come up, if you've got Snapshot or something and you need something like this for a resource, go ahead and do that and scratch build one of these buildings for yourself. In any case, there's small things, big things, you know, just all kinds of things out there, and they add a lot of realism to your model railroad. So we're just going to get into this and enjoy. The first page we have here are property line posts. Now, not every small piece of property would have had something like this, but huge yards and stuff like that would have had markers for the property boundaries. You know, and who doesn't need a whistle post somewhere on their layout? But also telephone poles had numbers on them and mile markers. Various types of things were used on the railroad for scenery details on your model railroad. Cross bucks at crossings, yard limit signs, all these things add a lot of detail to just, you know, add life to your railroad. You know, everywhere you have tunnels or that type of thing, there were warnings on a lot of railroads that let people know that we're working on top of the cars back in the old days. Mail cranes, a lot of places used these, not everywhere did, but you know, small quick through non-stop areas, a lot of them had mail cranes. And if you're driving through a farm and you have a fence line that crosses the farm and the cattle can cross the railroads on small sidings and stuff, you might need a cattle guard to keep the cattle from crossing that line there. Now there's 3 pages here, you know, just a nice old water tank. If you're building a water tank for your steam locomotives, there's one here for the base, and then there's one for the basic supports that hold up the main part of the tank, and then there's one more page that just, you know, has detail for all the top parts of the tank. These are not the kind of tanks I'm going to be having to use on my railroad, but you know, it's a good example of just something in this book that if you need, you can build. Different types of station signs with lamps and stuff that were used across the majority of the railroad. A lot of railroads had their own specific types of lamps that they used throughout the railroad. A privy or outdoor toilet. You know, back in my day, these were here and there along railroads where a lot of men were working for, you know, use. This is one thing here, a little fire hose box. There were a few of these in the main yard, you know, especially around steam locomotives, roundhouses, turntables, that kind of thing. You saw a lot of these. Milk platforms, you know, in small rural areas that had a lot of dairy farms, you would see these, and the trains would stop at these to pick up milk cans or set off empties. Scale house, you know, this is something that was in most freight yards. They had to weigh the cars, and this is one that's a similar example to what I'm going to have to build at some point in time. just little waiting sheds in small areas that had passenger service into town. A lot of these were there. Section tool houses. In the old days, these were every so often along your railroad. Different railroads spaced them differently, but they all had section gangs that took care of the railroad in that specific area. And there were just a lot of these along the railroad back in the day. And there's different sizes. This book has several different sizes in it. Tower buildings. There was a whole lot of different tower drawings. I just showed a couple here, but these came in various sizes and stuff, and if you need a blueprint for your tower, go to your historical society and see if they have a copy of this or a book similar to this. A lot of times they'll have individual sheets that you can just buy the sheets. Different size freight houses. There's plans for several different sizes of freight houses in this book, and they're just another building that was good to have. Regular passenger stations. There were standard builds for a lot of the passenger stations on the railroads. A lot of railroads had, every single one seemed to be different. If you're needing to build a wooden trestle, there's guides in here about how this particular railroad built their wooden trestles and the rules that they used. Here's another scale house. Now this is similar to the one that I'm going to have to build for my railroad, and I'll probably do a couple, 2 or 3 little shows on just how I'm building this. This is the pictures of the scale house as it was in Grafton, West Virginia, and it's been changed. You can see where some of the windows were changed and blotted out, and things happen. So there you have another research video in my series on research for stew structures. There's a lot in these books and in these prints. A lot of railroads, the historical societies can even sell you individual sheets for a lot of the railroads for different plans and things that you're looking for. Definitely support the historical societies. They have tons of information, and a lot of it is not available from any other source. So, all this stuff is really good stuff. But in this book, there's everything from crossings to switches to the correct profiles for the ballast along the railroad. All the things I did show you on here, but they're even hand tools, specific dimensions for making, the big when we were men tools that they used to drag around and use to put bolts together and bolt rails together, anything. There's just tons of stuff that are in these books, and most all railroad historical societies have these, whether it's in a book and compiled like this, or whether it's a bunch of individual sheets like the B&O Historical Society has on file. So go out there and support them, and find reference for some of the things that you want to build or make for your model railroad. All this adds a lot of realism to a railroad. In any case, thank you for coming back and sharing this time with me. Like I explained, like and share this information. A lot of people want to know it's out there and don't really know the sources to find this kind of thing. And subscribe to my channel and hit the bell down below, and then you'll be notified when a new video comes out on my channel. It is winter time. Jump out there and play with your trains a little bit. The holidays, a lot of people, if nothing else, get a train out and put it around the Christmas tree. That's what got me hooked as a young kid, and that was really the only time of year I ever got to play with trains, was when they were around the Christmas tree. And I fell in love with toy trains at that point in time, plus watching real railroads over the course of my life. So it's been a very enjoyable hobby, excuse me. And I do spend a lot of time through the winter on this, so hopefully you're getting a little more time to spend on your model railroad through the winter time. Scratch build some buildings, jump out there and try some of these projects, and add a little bit more realism to your model railroad. And happy model railroading.